Welcome to the Hub of Vision Show, your go-to podcast for the most influential books from the greatest minds in business. We're talking marketing, influence, productivity hacks, sales, and more, all to help you accelerate your vision. Get ready for insights and strategies that drive success. You're tuned in to the Hub of Vision Show, where your business vision takes off now.
Okay, imagine this. You're in a room,
Mm-hmm.
and someone in a lab coat
Okay.
tells you to do something
Uh-huh.
that feels wrong.
All right.
You hesitate,
Yeah.
but their authority is so strong
Mm-hmm.
that you ultimately comply.
Wow.
Sounds a bit like a sci-fi movie, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, it's not.
Okay.
We're diving into the world of authority and persuasion today.
Fascinating.
It's a lot closer to home than you might think.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So to help us navigate this tricky terrain,
Okay.
we're using Robert Cialdini's Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, as our guide.
Oh, classics.
Specifically, we'll be focusing on Chapter 6,
Mm-hmm.
which delves into the power of authority
Right.
and the surprising ways it can override our own judgment.
Very relevant.
Cialdini starts with a truly unsettling example,
Okay.
the Milgram experiment.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Have you heard of this one?
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic study in psychology.
Yeah, for sure.
Really gets you thinking.
So for those who haven't, give us the rundown.
Okay. So back in the 1960s,
Okay.
Stanley Milgram,
Mm-hmm.
he designed this experiment
Okay.
to see how far people would go to obey authority,
Mm-hmm.
even when it conflicted with their conscience.
That's heavy stuff.
It really is.
Okay, so what exactly did this experiment involve?
All right, so participants were told
Mm-hmm.
they were part of a learning experiment
Okay.
and were instructed to administer electric shocks to another person.
Oh, wow.
Each time they answered a question incorrectly.
Hold on, so the shocks weren't real.
No, they weren't real.
Okay, good.
But the participants, they believed they were real.
Oh, wow.
And the voltage, well, it supposedly increased
Uh-huh.
with each wrong answer.
Oh, God.
So you can imagine the tension.
Yeah, it makes the situation seem really dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. Incredibly stressful.
Yeah, I can't imagine anyone going along with that
Mhm.
if they thought they were really hurting someone.
Well, that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because a significant majority of participants,
Mm.
they continued administering those shocks, even when they thought they were causing serious pain.
Wow.
Simply because this figure of authority,
Yeah.
a scientist in a lab coat,
Oh, right.
told them to do so.
That is disturbing.
It really is. It's a powerful illustration
Yeah.
of just how ingrained our obedience to authority is.
Right.
Even when it clashes with, our moral compass.
Our own morals.
Exactly, our own sense of right and wrong.
So it's not just about someone, giving us a direct order.
Right.
It's about the subtle cues that signal their authority as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's about those subtle cues.
Okay, so what are some examples of those cues?
Well, Cialdini, he identifies 3 key symbols of authority.
Okay.
Titles,
Mm.
clothing, and trappings.
Titles, okay, so like doctor or professor.
Exactly, yeah, those titles,
Right.
they instantly give someone an aura of expertise.
Yeah, I think.
Even if we know nothing about their actual qualifications.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like a shortcut. Our brains just go, okay, they must know what they're talking about.
This reminds me of those commercials you see,
Oh, yeah.
picturing celebrities endorsing products.
Mhm.
They're totally unrelated to their field.
Absolutely.
They're not experts,
Right.
but their fame lends them an air of authority, right?
Exactly. Their perceived authority comes from that celebrity status.
That makes sense.
It's all about perception.
Okay, so what about clothing?
Oh, clothing. That's a big one.
Yeah,
Think about it. Medical professionals,
Uh-huh.
they often wear those white coats.
right.
And that clothing, it instantly signifies their expertise.
Right.
And it makes us, well, more likely to trust their advice.
So even something as simple as clothing
Hmm.
can play a significant role
Oh, absolutely.
in how we perceive authority.
It really can.
It's fascinating how these symbols influence our subconscious.
It's amazing, isn't it? The power of these visual cues.
It really is.
Yeah, it's all happening below the surface.
Okay, so we've got titles, we've got clothing.
Mm-hmm.
What about these trappings you mentioned?
Ah, yes, the trappings.
What are those?
These are the extras. The
Yeah.
things that suggest success and status.
Okay.
So think luxury cars,
Okay.
expensive watches,
Right.
name-dropping prestigious affiliations, things like that.
So it's all about creating that image of, I've made it.
Right, exactly. Projecting that aura of success and influence.
That makes sense.
It's subtle, but it's powerful.
So those ads that showcase successful business people using a particular software.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They're implying that using it will lead to similar success, right?
Precisely. They're leveraging those trappings
Right.
to signal authority and influence our perception of the product.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all about creating that association in our minds.
It's incredible how we're constantly bombarded with these subtle cues.
I know, right? It's everywhere.
Yeah, and they often shape our choices without us even realizing it.
It's true. It's happening all the time under the radar.
So we've seen how powerful authority can be and how it can even override our better judgment.
It's a bit unsettling when you think about it.
Yeah, it really is. But what does this mean for us in the real world?
Right.
Beyond the lab setting of the Milgram experiment?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to explore in the
Okay.
next part of our deep dive.
All right, I'm ready.
We're going to take these concepts of authority and examine how they manifest in everyday situations.
Right.
And how they can be used ethically and effectively.
All right, looking forward to it. Okay, so we've talked about how authority can be so powerful and how it can sometimes override our own judgment. It is a bit unsettling to think about how these cues, they're working on us without us even realizing it.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of these influences are happening beneath the surface, below our conscious awareness.
Right.
But that's exactly why I think it's so important to understand these things. Because once we understand it, it gives us this power to be more, discerning.
Okay.
In our decision making, and as consumers.
Right, so we can start to recognize these patterns.
Exactly. See them for what they are.
Okay, so how do we apply this knowledge then to our own lives? Can we use these principles of authority in a positive way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It's not about, manipulating other people. It's more about communicating effectively.
Okay.
And building genuine trust. Let's start with something we all encounter every day. Marketing and advertising.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one for sure.
Right. It's everywhere.
So let's say I'm a business owner.
Okay. Yeah.
How could I use these authority principles ethically
Right.
to market my product or service?
Well, one of the most effective strategies is showcasing real expertise.
Okay.
So instead of just relying on these vague claims,
Right.
you highlight specific qualifications, certifications, awards, things that demonstrate your knowledge, your credibility.
So if I'm running, say, a financial planning firm.
Yeah, perfect example.
I might want to highlight the fact that my advisors are certified financial planners.
Exactly.
Or that my firm, has won awards for its investment strategies or something.
Right. You're giving people concrete evidence.
Yeah.
That builds trust.
Instead of just saying, oh, we're the best, you're showing it.
Yeah, trust us. We're the experts. No, show them why they should trust you.
Right.
Think about it. If you were looking for financial advice, who would you trust more? Someone who just says they're good or someone who can back it up?
Yeah, you're going to go with the person with the credentials.
Exactly. People naturally gravitate toward those who seem most qualified.
That makes total sense. Are there other ways to showcase expertise? What about testimonials?
Oh, yeah. Testimonials are powerful.
Okay.
Featuring those endorsements from satisfied clients.
Right.
Especially those who are seen as experts themselves. That can lend you instant credibility.
So if I'm a personal trainer, I might get testimonials from clients who have achieved, really impressive fitness goals.
Exactly.
Maybe even from a doctor who recommends my services or something.
Right. Because you're leveraging social proof.
Yeah.
You're showing people that others have had success with you.
Right. It's that idea that if other people had a good experience, then it must be good.
Precisely. It's way more convincing than just hearing claims.
Right, yeah.
It's like actions speak louder than words, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
So this applies to things beyond marketing too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about job interviews, presentations, even everyday conversations,
Yeah.
By highlighting your expertise, your accomplishments, but doing it in a genuine way, you enhance your credibility and your influence.
Okay, so it's about presenting yourself in a way that subtly signals your authority, but without being, boastful or inauthentic.
Right.
It's letting your knowledge and experience speak for themselves.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But we need to remember that showcasing expertise, it's just one aspect of leveraging authority.
Right.
We need to remember those other symbols that we talked about earlier.
Yes, exactly. We can't forget about clothing and trappings.
Right. So, like you were saying earlier, how a doctor's white coat immediately conveys authority.
Yeah.
How does that translate to other professions?
Well, a doctor's attire is a really clear example, but the principle applies, broadly.
Okay.
Think about it. A lawyer's suit, a chef's uniform, even a police officer's badge.
Right.
These things, they instantly signal their role and their authority.
Yeah.
And in the business world, this translates to, well, professional attire,
Yep.
a well-designed office space,
Yep.
even a polished website. All of these things contribute to a sense of credibility, expertise.
So even in the digital age, dressing for success still holds true.
It really does.
Even if it's, your website that's doing the dressing.
Exactly. It's about that first impression, that visual cue.
And what about those trappings that Cialdini talks about?
Ah, yes, the trappings.
Yeah.
So in a business context, this might be, showcasing partnerships,
Yeah.
but partnerships with reputable companies.
That's right.
Displaying awards, certifications prominently,
Okay.
maybe highlighting positive media coverage,
So it's all about creating that overall impression of success, of trustworthiness.
Precisely. You're not just telling people you're an authority, you're showing them.
You're backing it up with evidence.
Yeah. Proof, proof, proof.
Okay. But it feels important to remember that authenticity, that's key here.
Oh, absolutely. Authenticity is paramount.
Like, if you're trying to fake authority or rely on misleading tactics, that's going to backfire.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Consumers are savvy.
Right.
They can spot a phony a mile away.
It's like that saying, you can fool some of the people all of the time
Right.
and all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time.
Exactly. The truth will come out eventually.
It always does.
Yeah.
So we've got these principles of authority. They can be incredibly powerful tools,
Powerful stuff.
for communication, for persuasion, but they have to be used ethically responsibly.
100%.
It's about building trust, credibility, not about manipulating or misleading people.
You got it.
So then how can we, as consumers, protect ourselves
Yeah.
from being unduly influenced by authority?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about how these cues, they often operate subconsciously.
Right.
So how do we become more aware of them?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Well, that leads us to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
where we're going to explore the importance of critical thinking and how we can become more discerning consumers of information, particularly when it comes to authority.
So it can be a bit daunting, right? To think about all these subtle influences that are at play,
Right.
especially when they're often
Yeah.
operating beneath our conscious radar.
Under the surface.
Yeah. So how do we become more aware of these authority cues?
That's the key, right?
Yeah.
Awareness.
And make sure that we're not just being swayed by something that's not truly credible.
Well, I think it really comes down to
Let's-
cultivating a healthy sense of skepticism
Okay.
and really developing our critical thinking skills.
So it's not about just
Yeah.
dismissing all authority figures,
Right, exactly. Not about dismissing everyone.
but about evaluating their claims
Right.
and the evidence that they're presenting.
Yeah, it's about being discerning.
Being discerning.
Yeah, not just taking things at face value.
So what are some questions we can ask ourselves?
Oh, there are so many good questions to ask.
Yeah, to kind of make sure we're not
Yeah.
being unduly influenced.
So you can start with, what are their credentials?
Okay, yeah.
Do they actually have a genuine track record of success in this area?
Right, so not just
Yeah.
letters after their name,
Exactly, but real experience,
but what have they actually done?
Yeah, what have they accomplished?
Okay, so that's a good one.
And is the information they're presenting, is it backed up by credible sources?
So it's
Yeah.
doing a little background check
Exactly, a little due diligence.
on the authority figure
Oh, yeah.
before we just accept what they're saying.
Absolutely, I think that's so important.
Okay, so checking their credentials,
Mhm.
making sure they've got the experience,
Yeah.
and then are they being transparent about, where they're getting their information from?
Exactly. Transparency is key.
We need to make sure their expertise is relevant.
Right. It has to be relevant to the topic at hand. You
Yeah.
can't be an expert in everything.
To the topic at hand,
Right.
and that their motives are transparent.
Oh, motives. That's a big one.
Yeah.
What's their agenda?
Yeah, what's in it for them?
Exactly. Are they trying to sell you something?
Yeah, that's
Or are they genuinely trying to share knowledge?
Okay, so checking for those biases, right?
Absolutely. Everyone has biases, even experts.
Even experts, okay.
Yeah, so it's important to be aware of that.
Is there anything else we should be looking out for?
I think another red flag is if someone tries to, shut down questions
Oh, interesting.
or dismiss differing viewpoints,
Like they don't want to hear.
Yeah, they're not open to
No
discussion.
pushback.
Exactly. They think they have all the answers.
Okay.
And I think true expertise, it often comes with a willingness to engage in open dialogue
Okay.
and consider different perspectives.
So if they're really an expert,
Yeah.
they shouldn't feel threatened by,
Right.
someone
Yeah.
questioning their ideas.
Exactly. They should be confident enough in their knowledge to welcome, constructive criticism.
Okay, that's a good one.
So that's something to watch out for.
But even if someone checks all those boxes, they've got the credentials,
Yeah.
they're open to hearing different perspectives.
Right.
We still can't just assume
Yeah.
that authority equals truth.
That's so important to remember.
Right.
Just because someone has a fancy title or wears a uniform.
Right. Those trappings.
Exactly. Those trappings of authority.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're always right.
Right.
We still need to evaluate their arguments, the evidence.
On their own merits.
Yes, exactly. Separate from the person.
Like remembering that everyone can have biases.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone.
Even those in positions of authority.
Yeah. No one is immune to bias.
And we can't let those symbols of authority,
Right.
blind us
Yeah. They can be blinding.
to the potential flaws
Absolutely. They can cloud our judgment.
in their reasoning.
It's like we let our guard down.
Right, because we just assume
Yeah.
they must be right.
Exactly. We give them too much credit.
So this critical mindset,
Mm-hmm.
it extends beyond just individual authority figures, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, what about brands,
Mhm.
institutions, even news sources?
Absolutely. Any source of information.
Yeah.
Just because a brand is well known
Right, yeah.
or a publication has a long history.
Like, it must be true, right?
See, doesn't guarantee their trustworthiness. You have to be just as critical.
So we're applying that same level of scrutiny
Exactly.
to everything.
To all sources of information.
Okay, and looking beyond just the surface.
Yeah. Peel back the layers. Look
Yeah.
at the actual content.
And evaluating the information based on its own merit.
Right. Not just the source.
Not just who's saying it.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's about being
Yeah.
an informed
I'm just
consumer.
engaged.
Yeah, you got to be active in the process, regardless of where it's coming
Right.
from.
It's not passive consumption anymore.
Right, right.
You have to think critically.
And that also includes, right,
Yeah.
being aware of our own biases.
Oh, absolutely. That's
You-
huge.
Yeah, because we all have
We all have biases.
those preconceived notions.
Yeah, they're sneaky.
Preferences.
It can really color our judgment.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do we become more aware of those?
Well, it takes a lot of self-reflection.
Okay.
Really paying attention to your thoughts, your reactions.
Like, what are my tendencies?
Yeah, what are you drawn to?
And how are those influencing
Exactly.
how I perceive authority?
It's a journey.
Okay.
It's an ongoing process, and there's
Yeah.
always room for improvement.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the more we cultivate this critical mindset, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this whole complex world.
This world of authority and persuasion.
Hidden jungle out there.
So as we wrap up our deep dive
Mhm.
into Cialdini's exploration of authority, what's the key takeaway
The key takeaway.
for our listeners?
I think the big one is just remembering that authority, it can be this powerful force.
Right.
It shapes our decisions, sometimes without us even realizing it.
Yeah.
But understanding these principles, recognizing the symbols, and cultivating this critical mindset, it empowers us to
Right.
make more informed, more deliberate choices.
So it's not about saying authority is bad.
Right, not inherently good or bad.
Yeah.
It's about how it's used
Okay.
and how we respond to it.
That's what matters.
Exactly. We have the power to decide.
Yeah. That's good. So we're not just like
Yeah.
mindless robots.
Right, we have agency.
Obeying every command.
Exactly. We can think for ourselves.
Okay. So by developing these critical thinking skills,
Yeah.
we can harness the power of authority for good
Absolutely. Use it to our advantage.
while also protecting ourselves.
Yeah, from its potential pitfalls.
Okay. This has been a really insightful conversation.
It has been fascinating.
Yeah. Exploring this whole
Yeah.
world of authority and persuasion.
It's amazing how much we're influenced by these things.
For our listeners who are interested in going deeper,
Yeah.
I highly recommend checking out Robert Cialdini's book,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion.
It's a must read.
Really fascinating read
So many
and
innings.
packed with
Yeah.
even more insights than we've been able to cover today.
We've just scratched the surface.
Yeah. And it also offers strategies, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Practical strategies.
For becoming more persuasive ourselves.
Yeah. You can use these principles in your own life.
And becoming more aware of
Yeah.
the tactics that others might be using.
Exactly. It's like a defense manual.
So remember, everyone, understanding these principles,
Mm-hmm.
It's not about manipulating others.
No, not at all.
It's about being more effective communicators.
Yeah, connecting with people.
Building genuine trust.
Authentically.
And making choices
Yeah.
that are aligned with our values.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
My pleasure. Always a good time.
I hope you're leaving with some powerful takeaways to fuel your success. But don't stop here. Take it to the next level. For more insights, head over to hubofvision.com/podcast, where you'll find illustrations and infographics designed to impact your brain in a whole new way. Visualize your success and absorb these strategies deeper to become the excelling entrepreneur you're meant to be. Visit hubofvision.com/podcast and level up your vision today.